Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, welcome to today's webinar. And today's webinar is going to be the second hour of the resilience session that is going to be facilitated none but other than Dr. Alex Granger. Dr. Alex Granger is considered one of the top leadership and personal mastery speakers in Africa. His work is embraced by business leaders of blue chip companies, associations, institutes, and leaders in government. He has been speaking since 2002. He holds a PhD in philosophy with his thesis on epistemological mindsets, a Doctor of Excellence, honoris causa, an executive leadership development program from the Gordon's Institute of Business Science with a distinction in leadership, and he's a certified NLP life coach and certified virtual instructor-led trainer, VILT. He is the author of 5 books, co-founded and chief purpose officer of Twice Blue and CEO of The Possibility of You. So, Dr. Alex, we are really very glad to host you here with us. And without much ado, I'd like to welcome you to this webinar and to give you the floor. Actually, the format for this session will be after Dr. Alex will spare some time to do a Q&A so that we can be able to address any issues that might emerge. And that's what we have for you today. So please enjoy the webinar. Welcome, Dr. Alex.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And it's so good to be again connecting with good friends in Rwanda and wherever you are connecting in from. I know there are other participants from outside of the country, and mine is to say to Amin Murakoze. I'm grateful for the opportunity. By the way, if you didn't know, I was given a name in Rwanda. I don't know if you remember it, Amin, but it is Ngabo Muhinzi. Ngabo Muhinzi. Yes. I'm the farmer. I'm the protector of the land.
Fantastic.
All right. So thank you very much. I think we're all living in very unparalleled times. And really from the time and from a South African perspective, we had our lockdown already on the 27th of March. And immediately I realized that my clients will be traumatized and go through a lot of difficult times, specifically emotionally and mentally, to actually deal with a new type of work, remote work. And even for me as a speaker and trainer, my life has become one where I'm behind a computer screen. And I have to negotiate. Even before this session, I was negotiating with the chaps outside my house who were deciding to cut the lawn at the wrong time. And I had to beg, please, please, please stop. So I'm going to share my screen and share with you the message I have today. And as Amin has already said, it is about resilience, and it's really titled The Second Arrow, Resilience. I see some familiar names in the attendees, so welcome. I won't mention anyone in particular, but maybe I'll just say hi to Sunday. I know you and I have worked very closely with the seminars, and I saw Esperanza from Tanzania. You are here, ma'am. It's good to have you. So I'm going to get straight into it and share my screen, and then just allow for us to get straight into the business of the day. So allow me just to share my screen. Right, there we go. And perfect, you should be seeing my logo on your screen. And so if you do see that, maybe, Amin, you want to unmute and just tell me that you can see my screen so I can go ahead.
Yes, Alex, I can see it perfectly. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, let's then get straight into the business of the day. I'd like to obviously first introduce myself. Those of you who've never seen my video introductions, they're not designed for you, they're designed for me to get me in the right mindset. So, but if you enjoy it, it's also fine. So let's go.
He is exceptional. An international speaker, think shifter, author, and co-founder of Twice Blue.
Maybe an African hero, but his story and his appeal are universal. I know this personally.
He specializes in leadership, personal mastery, and high high performance. Authentic, dynamic, and purpose-driven.
I just loved him. You liked him a little bit before, you really loved him afterwards.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Alex Granger.
Right, thank you very much. And now I think I'm ready. I'm in the right mindset, and I'm excited to share with you this afternoon the second arrow, resilience. And I think if you consider the times that we live in, as the spread and far-reaching impact of this COVID-19 seems to dominate the world news, we have all witnessed and experienced the parallel spread of anxiety and worry, and a lot of instability. And indeed, in a crisis, our mental state often seems only to exacerbate an already extremely challenging situation. And without even a constant barrage of bad or worrisome news, your mind's natural tendency is to get distracted. And as the mind wanders, it easily gets trapped into patterns and negative thinking. And so it is during these times of crises, such as the ones we're living through right now, where this tendency of the negative thinking is amplified. And the mind can easily get hooked by obsessive thinking, as well as feelings of fear and helplessness. And so you see, when your mind gets stuck in the state, a chain reaction begins. Fear begins to narrow your field of vision, and it becomes harder to see the bigger picture and the positive, creative possibilities that are in front of you. And this made me decide very early on in this COVID time to design this workshop or this keynote primarily as a keynote and a workshop to help us all to navigate the challenges we face during this COVID-19 space. And so I read up on the story of the Buddha. The Buddha once asked a student, if a person is struck by an arrow, is it painful? And the student replied, it is. The Buddha then asked, if the person is struck by a second arrow, is that even more painful? And the student replied again, it is. Then the Buddha explained, in life, we cannot always control the first arrow. However, the second arrow is our reaction to the first. And with this second arrow comes the possibility of choice. You see, the first arrow is our human conditioning to cling to comfort and to pleasure and to react with anger or fear to unpleasant experiences. You see, we believe we should be able to control our negative emotions, but then they just come in and they storm us and they possess our psyches. We think we should be able to stop our obsessive thoughts or even our compulsive behaviors, but the anxious rehearsing hounds us throughout the day. And so the second arrow, my friends, is the more painful arrow. It is our reaction to these failures. It is that second painful experience of the coronavirus, us getting it. The first one is about the lockdown and the circumstances and the environment and what the governments have done. But the second arrow is the anxiety about getting the virus ourselves, the worry that our loved ones will get it, the worries about our own personal financial implications, and every other dark scenario you can think of. I mean, in South Africa now, we are sitting with over 250,000 people who have been infected. Our recovery rate is just under 50%. So as at yesterday, I think we had about 138,000 people who have recovered. We have over 4,000 people who have passed away. And so initially when this thing started, we read about cases and incidents in the paper or watched it on the news. But today I can tell you there's no one who has not been affected by it, by knowing somebody, either a family member, a friend, a colleague at work. And so the second arrow has suddenly struck. This morning, I did a talk for a large insurance company here in South Africa. And the manager who had actually invited me to share with his team, He has COVID-19. And of course, it was a very difficult time, and he was explaining how he has been suffering with this. So it's important to remember that the second arrow, our emotional and our psychological response to crises, are actually natural and they're very human. But the truth is that they often bring us more suffering by narrowing and cluttering our mind and keeping us from seeing clearly the best course of action. Now, the way to overcome this natural tendency is to build our mental and our emotional resilience. Mental resilience, especially in challenging times like the present, means managing our minds in a way that increases our ability to face the first arrow, but also to be able to break the second arrow before it strikes. Resilience is the skill of noticing our own thoughts, unhooking from the non-constructive ones, and then rebalancing pretty quickly. I'm reminded of the quote by Napoleon Hill, who says, "The starting point of all achievement is desire." And as I take you through this presentation, I want you to think to yourself whether you have a desire to develop a new level of resilience, and perhaps it may mean just trying to inculcate one of these key elements that I will share with you. I've got 5 things I want to share with you this afternoon. We're going to talk about mindset, emotional intelligence, self-belief, adaptability, and optimism. And I believe that these 5 things are but part of the bigger scheme of resilience. These are the ones that resonated very well with me and a lot of people that I spoke to. So let's start off and talk about mindset. Mindset. To start off this conversation, I thought I'd play you a video of about 2 minutes long. And this video will demonstrate to you the way that we interpret challenges in our lives, or even the way that we frame our words from our mindsets, and also then the ability we have to reverse the way we framed things to actually have a more positive aspect in terms of what we are facing. Watch this video.
I am part of a lost generation, and I refuse to believe that I can change the world. I realize this may be a shock, but happiness comes from within is a lie, and money will make me happy. So in 30 years, I'll tell my children they are not the most important thing in my life. My employer will know that I have my priorities straight because work is more important than family. I'll tell you this, once upon a time, families stayed together, but this will not be true in my era. This is a quick fix society. Experts tell me 30 years from now, I'll be celebrating the 10th anniversary of my divorce. I do not concede that I will live in a country of my own making. In the future, environmental destruction will be the norm. No longer can it be said that my peers and I care about this earth. It will be evident that my generation is apathetic and lethargic. It is foolish to presume that there is hope. And all this will come true unless we choose to reverse it. There is hope. It is foolish to presume that my generation is apathetic and lethargic. It will be evident that my peers and I care about this earth. No longer can it be said that environmental destruction will be the norm. In the future, I will live in a country of my own making. I do not concede that 30 years from now, I will be celebrating the 10th anniversary of my divorce. Experts tell me this is a quick fix society, but this will not be true in my era. Families stayed together once upon a time. I tell you this, family is more important than work. I have my priorities straight because my employer will know that they are not the most important thing in my life. So in 30 years, I'll tell my children, money will make me happy is a lie, and happiness comes from within. I realize this may be a shock, but I can change the world. And I refuse to believe that I am part of a lost generation.
It's interesting to me how you are able to use the same words, but to rephrase them, to turn them around by simply reversing the way you say them. So let me share with you a few types of mindsets, and there are so many, but I thought I'd just share with you some that are quick to recognize, and maybe you can begin to look at your own life and begin to say, do I have that type of mindset? For example, the victim mindset, where the world is against me. It always happens to me. I can never get things right. The victim mindset is juxtaposed by the hero mindset, where the person will say, I can rise above all my challenges. So which one are you? Are you a victim or are you a hero? Or perhaps you have a scarcity mindset, where you believe that there's not enough for everyone. There's not enough to go around. Therefore, you hoard information. You think that by keeping all the knowledge and keeping all the knowledge that you've learned and information you have gives you an advantage. It doesn't. Whereas you should have an abundance mindset, where you believe there's plenty for everyone. And even if there isn't enough, we can make more. And then, of course, there's the agile mindset. The agile mindset is about embracing change. And I'll talk about it when we're discussing the adaptability part of our session this afternoon. And then those of you who have listened to me at the ICPA seminar will remember I spoke about the exponential mindset. And we used the example there of the Formula One vehicles. You might remember this, where I said, in the future, I believe that there are organizations who are going to be developing innovative products where the companies can start thinking exponentially. And thinking exponentially is about trying to make things different and not just to improve on existing products. And that's the exponential mindset that we need to begin to develop. So what is mindset? Mindset, in my view, is just a way of thinking. It's a type of thinking. But more than that, excuse me, more than that, our mindset is our mental attitude that has taken shape based on our life experiences, our environment, our education, and the ideas and beliefs we have absorbed from those people we have most interacted with in our lives. And I'm sure you've heard them say that if you want to understand someone's personality, just have a look at the circle of friends that they hang around with, and you kind of get a handle of who they are. It is definitely a result of the most people that you have interacted with. But also, mindset shapes the lives we lead, the actions we take, and the future possibilities of the world we live in. But why does it matter? Why is mindset important? Two reasons. Mindsets matter because they shape the way we view the world, and they can either constrict or expand the way we engage in life, right? But secondly, our mindsets grow out of the experiences we have. So irrespective of whether the experience is positive or negative, a filter is formed that limits what our mind absorbs of subsequent situations. So there again, you can think about all the biases that you have. You know, they are formed as a result of those experiences. So if you have a confirmation bias, for example, and you believe that the Ferrari is faster than the McLaren, that's a bad example after the weekend. But if you believe that the Ferrari is faster than the McLaren, it doesn't matter what someone will say. You will always go back to your filter, and your filter will remind you that you believe in Ferrari. So what we're trying to say here in the Mindsets Matter is that we need to begin to have a more open mind, open-mindedness as we journey through life, as we journey in our businesses. Our mindsets really matter. There are three types of mindsets I thought I'd share today. Great work done by Professor Carol S. Dweck in the US. She talks about the first one being the fixed mindset. And in a fixed mindset, she says, people believe their basic abilities, their intelligence, their talents are fixed traits. You know, emphasis on fixed traits. They have a certain amount and that's that. And then their goal becomes to look smart and never to look dumb. These are the people who, when you give them a job description, they stick to it. They want to do exactly what's in their job description. Don't ask me to do more or anything outside of my scope of work unless you're prepared to pay for me. These people with fixed mindsets are not open to learning and growing and development because they just want to stay in their cocoon. The second mindset is the growth mindset. In a growth mindset, people understand that their talents and their abilities can be developed through effort and persistence. They don't necessarily think everyone's the same or anyone can be as smart as Einstein, but they do believe that everyone can get smarter if they work at it. And here's the cryptic word, the word work at it, the insane work ethic that we need to develop. That's the growth mindset. We believe inherently that we have what it takes to grow and to develop. And the third one is the benefit mindset. In a benefit mindset, people not only seek to fulfill their potential, but they choose to do it in a way that contributes to the well-being of others and society as a whole. Think about people who are in the research field. You know, they're looking out right now when we talk about the coronavirus, we have countries all over the world who are trying to come up with a vaccine. These are people who probably have a benefit mindset. They're trying to help the world to find a solution to the pandemic that we find ourselves in. People ask the question, why do we do what we do? And they believe in doing good things for good reasons. So the question will be now, Alex, great, thanks for sharing these concepts and ideas, but practically, how do we actually develop the right mindset for success? You see, because mindset is more than just an inborn talent, it is the best predictor of success. And yes, you can change yours. So here are 5 ideas I thought I'd share that could help us develop the right mindset. So the first thing is to think of your mindset as a voice. How does a mindset manifest itself? It controls the way you talk to yourself in the privacy of your own head. Now, recognizing this fact is the first step to achieving a growth mindset. As you approach a challenge, that voice might say in your head, are you sure you can do this? Maybe you don't have the talent. Or what if you fail? You'll be a failure. The first thing to do is to pay attention to your thoughts and see if you frequently tell yourself anything similar. If so, you've just spotted the fixed mindset at work, and this will undermine your potential for success. So the first step to developing this growth mindset or to change your mindset is just to pay attention to the conversation that you're having in your head. When that's done, you need to choose growth. Now that you know what you're up against, the next step is recognizing that you are not stuck with the thoughts you currently have. How you interpret challenges or setbacks and criticism is really your choice. You can interpret them in a fixed mindset as signs that your fixed talents or abilities are lacking, or you can interpret them in a growth mindset as signs that you need to ramp up your strategies and effort, stretch yourself, and expand your abilities. The third thing you want to do is talk back, because we've now paid attention to the fact that we can think of our mindset as a voice. When it comes to that limiting voice in your head, feel free and as sassy as you like in your response. You can tell that voice exactly what's wrong with how it's framing the situations, and actively reformulate your approach to challenges and setbacks to reflect a belief in personal growth. Let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, that your fixed mindset says to you, are you sure you can do it? Maybe you don't have the talent. The growth mindset in you will respond and say, I'm not sure I can do it now, but I think I can learn to do it with time and with effort. Can you see the difference between a fixed mindset that literally puts you down a pessimistic pathway and literally shuts you down from growing, whereas the growth mindset acknowledges where you are, that you're not perfect, that you haven't reached what you want to do, but it allows you to consider the possibility of actually growing. The fourth thing is to act. You see, changing the script in your head is a huge step. Yeah, don't get me wrong. But the whole point of doing so is to change not just your thoughts, but your actions, right? So don't content yourself with a remodeled inner voice. Get out there and practice what you're preaching to yourself. And then next, the last one is add this 3-letter word, yet, or even not yet. You know, Carol Estwick, she says that they found that by putting in certain phrases like yet or not yet, people were able to boost their motivation or change the way they think. So if someone says to you, you know what, I know you asked me to do this, to balance these books, I can't do it. Rather have them say, I can't do it yet. You know, if someone asks you, have you been to New York, and you haven't been, instead of saying, I haven't been to New York, just say, I haven't been to New York yet. Are you a millionaire? I'm not a millionaire yet. Do you run a multi-million rand US dollar business? I don't run a multi-million US dollar business yet. It's the way we frame these statements that changes the trajectory of the future. Mindset. Let's move on to emotional intelligence. I just want you to take in that video for a few seconds. Guys, I miss Kigali, if I may say so myself. I mean, I was last there in October. No, actually, I was last there in December for the HR Association conference. And Amin, I even bumped into you there. Amin gave a presentation, so that was really great. So I'm hoping this COVID thing can end pretty soon so I can be on a jet to that part of the world. But let's talk about emotional intelligence for a second. You know, most people think about emotional intelligence as a skill, right? Most of us, we think of emotional intelligence as a skill, something that you can build and something that you can train with practice. And while this is partly true, I want to suggest that there's a deeper truth about emotional intelligence that most of us probably miss. And that deeper truth is this: improving your emotional intelligence is often about what you do less of, not more of. I'll say that again. Improving your emotional intelligence is often about what you do less of, not what you do more of. And I've worked with many people who look like they don't have much emotional intelligence. And they share certain things and certain traits that actually reduce their ability to grow emotionally. And I thought I'd share a couple of videos that I thought would illustrate and demonstrate differences in emotional intelligence. So here we have Barack Obama. He's speaking to the press, and he starts getting heckled by one of the people.
As any middle-class family will tell you, we are not. I hear you. I got you. No, that's fine. Wait. We're okay. Can I just say that as hecklers go, that young lady was very polite.
Just watching that video and seeing how Obama was pleasant to watch when someone is challenging him. Really easy in terms of his emotional maturity and his responses. And then we have Donald Trump.
Challenge you on one of the statements that you made in the tail end of the campaign in the midterms. Here we go. If you don't mind, Mr. President, that this caravan.
I mean, right there, I don't even have to go further. The video actually gets very ugly towards the end. It's quite a long video where he starts to tell the CNN reporter that he's fake news, he shouldn't be working there, that's why the ratings are down. And it's just a demonstration of the difference. But in parts, Donald Trump actually does display good emotional intelligence. He manages well until he gets challenged on his response, and he takes it personally. And before you know it, he begins to lose his temper and he starts using ugly words. So let's talk about these bad emotional intelligence habits that some of us actually have. And as I share them, I want you to think about your own situation and be honest with yourself and say, you know what, I'm actually guilty of that. I need to change this. So let's talk about criticizing others, right? It's a bad emotional intelligence habit. Criticizing others is often an unconscious defense mechanism that is aimed at alleviating our own insecurities. You know, we're all critical sometimes, hey? And it's not a necessarily bad thing. To think carefully and critically about the world around us is actually a vital skill. It helps us to navigate the world and our relationships in a very objective way. But too much criticism, especially the habit of being critical of others, can lead to the opposite of objectivity. It can make us narrow-minded and blind, especially to ourselves. The second thing is, have you ever found yourself worrying about the future? Well, worrying about the future means living in denial about the fundamentally uncertain nature of life. As human beings, we crave order and certainty, and for good reason. We are biologically motivated to reduce any form of uncertainty. But there's a big difference between taking reasonable steps to reduce uncertainty and being so terrified by it that we delude ourselves into believing we can eliminate it altogether. So worrying about the future is a potential sign of a bad habit of emotional intelligence. Then there's ruminating on the past, or constantly overthinking and manifesting the thoughts continuously. Ruminating on the past mistakes is a misguided attempt at control. Just like humans crave order and certainty, guess what? We also crave control. We're obsessed with the idea that with enough effort and perseverance, we can do or achieve anything. And of course, most people who get stuck in this phase of ruminating endlessly on past mistakes and failures, they don't actually believe that they can change the past. Instead, ruminating about the past gives them the illusion of control, however fleeting and temporary. So when you've done something bad or made a mistake in the past, you naturally feel guilt and regret. Chronic ruminators develop this unconscious habit of constantly replaying past mistakes because it briefly gives them a feeling of control. In fact, I don't know whether you're getting control or you're just constantly hurting yourself over and over again. The last habit is maintaining unrealistic expectations. And unrealistic expectations are a misguided attempt to control other people. You know, just like ruminating is an attempt to control the past and how we feel about it, maintaining unrealistic expectations is usually a subtle attempt to control other people. And of course, most people with unrealistic expectations, they don't see it that way. You probably see your expectations of other people as a good thing. Having high expectations of people encourages them to grow and to mature and to become their best self. But this is still a subtle form of control. You have an idea for what another person in your life should be or do or accomplish, and your expectation is your way of trying to make that happen. So these are just bad habits, but let's talk about what emotional intelligence is. In a nutshell, it is our mind's ability to perceive, to manage, and to express emotions effectively in real life. It's our mind's ability to perceive, manage, and express our emotions effectively in real life. And so there are 5 components to emotional intelligence. We have self-awareness. People with high emotional intelligence are usually very self-aware. They understand their emotions, and because of this, they don't let their feelings rule them. They're confident because they trust their intuition and they don't let their emotions get out of control. They're also willing to take an honest look at themselves, right? That's part of self-awareness. They know their strengths and their weaknesses, and they work on these areas so they can perform better. The second part is self-regulation. This is the ability to control our emotions and our impulses. People who self-regulate typically don't allow themselves to become too angry or too jealous, and they don't make impulsive, careless decisions. So if you think about your organization, when you're in a leadership role, self-regulation becomes important because you don't want to make erratic decisions, impulsive decisions. You want to think before you act. And so characteristics of self-regulation include being thoughtful, comfortable with change, integrity, and even the ability to say no. The third part is motivation. People with a high degree of emotional intelligence are usually motivated, right? They're willing to defer immediate results for long-term success. And I think as accountants, you know this whole thing about long-term success. I mean, if you think of investments, they say the long-term investments are the ones that give you the best returns. But many people are in it for the money right now, quick returns, immediate results. You know, so people with good motivation have highly productive ways of working. They love challenges and they are effective in whatever they put their hands to. And then there's empathy. This is perhaps the second most important element or component of emotional intelligence. Empathy, my friends, is the ability to identify with and understand the wants and the needs and the viewpoints of those around you, right? People with empathy are good at recognizing the feelings of others, even when those feelings may not be obvious. And as a result, empathetic people are usually excellent at managing relationships, at listening, and even relating to other people. Why? Because they put themselves in those people's shoes and they're able to relate. They have a high level of empathy. And finally, social skills. This is also known as conflict resolution in some of the models, or even relationship management. It's usually easy, to talk to and to like people with good social skills. And this is another sign of high emotional intelligence. Those with strong social skills are typically team players. Rather than focus on their own success first, they help others develop and shine. And they can manage disputes, and they are excellent at communication. So yeah, Alex, this is all fun and great to know what emotional intelligence is. And we also now know why it's important, but help us then to develop. What are the 5 ways we can develop emotional intelligence? Here we go. The first one, let's start off by identifying the negative emotions. A large chunk of emotional intelligence lies in emotional management. How well we manipulate our feelings and efficiently use them makes us more resilient and immune to stress. When we can label or even name the emotions that bring us down, like anger and frustration and annoyance, we are less likely to get overwhelmed by external adversities. And we even stop exhausting our mental energy. So if you're wondering, well, Alex, where do I start? How do I deal with this? Here are a few hacks. So when someone upsets you, and this is going to happen in your lifetime, when someone upsets you or uses harsh words, don't react immediately. Withdraw yourself from the heated situation, take some time to gather your thoughts and choose your response wisely. And sometimes you can't withdraw yourself physically. You can't walk out of your boss's office. Sometimes you have to be there, but in your mindset, because now we've already discussed that the first thing is to think of your mindset as a voice. In your mind, you can withdraw from the situation, calm yourself down, gather your thoughts, and then choose your response wisely. Don't jump to conclusions. Check yourself. The moment negative thoughts start clouding up, don't jump to conclusions. And then in a time of distress, especially interpersonal conflict, spare some moments to look into the matter from the other person's point of view. That is the empathy. The second thing you can do is self-evaluate. Before observing and understanding others, watch yourself. To develop emotional intelligence, we must learn to assess ourselves objectively and to look into our actions from a bird's eye view. Challenge your thoughts. And you can do this by asking yourself the following questions. Am I thinking the right way? Should I have used those words today? How would I have reacted if someone had said what I just said to somebody else? Is there another way of looking into the matter? Am I on the right track? Is my family happy? So you see, frequent encounters with self enhance our perception and even creates humility, which together contribute highly to building emotional intelligence. The third thing is self-expression. Self-expression and emotional intelligence go hand in hand. Without one, we cannot build the other. People who can identify and express their thoughts effectively and in a more socially acceptable way are usually high on emotional intelligence. And I'll give you a quick example of that. So last year in April, I think it was, or May, I flew in from Kenya. I flew into Kigali and I was met by the driver of the Central Bank of Rwanda and taken on a just under 3-hour trip to Nyagatare, right? And we were at the Epic Hotel, stunning place with a beautiful basketball court. And we were there. The Central Bank had, I think, a 2.5-day strat session. And they'd asked me to come and spend half a day with them and running a workshop on emotional agility, right? And I don't know, some of the delegates might actually be in this Zoom call right now. So you might even remember this. On the day of the workshop, I remember just running and we were talking about emotional intelligence and agility. And at one point I used an example just to see how they would react. And I said in the session to the governor, because the governor was there and both deputy governors were there. And I said to the governor, you know, governor, yesterday at dinner when we were having our conversation, I wasn't happy about this and that. And, you know, I just didn't enjoy that conversation. And I did that on purpose to see what the reaction would be. Guys, let me tell you, if these guys could have carried me out, they would have, because they were saying to me, you can't talk to the governor like that. And immediately I began to see there's this thing about hierarchy and how you talk to people in senior management. But the truth of the matter was this: I was not disrespectful to the governor. I was not condescending. I was not patronizing. In fact, I spoke my mind. And I asked the governor in the session, I said, Governor, did you take offense to what I said? And he said, not at all, Alex. In fact, I wish more of my staff would be able to approach me and really talk to me about the hard matters. Self-expression is a very powerful tool as long as you use it in a socially acceptable way. And then there's stress management. Again, there are many ways of dealing with stress. I mean, many people look at dealing with stress by drinking alcohol or having a lot of coffee in the office or taking a smoke break and smoking, thinking that these substances are helping. They're actually not. They're adding fuel to the fire. The best beverage to manage stress is water. That's the best beverage. You can either sprinkle it on your face or you can drink it, right? The second best thing you can do is get fresh air. Take a walk out of your office and inhale fresh air. And you know your physiology, when you move from a place of stress to another environment, that physical movement changes the way you think, and therefore it changes the way you feel, right? So don't get into too much coffee and too much tea when you're stressed out. The last thing about emotional intelligence is empathy as a daily habit. And I think I've overemphasized what empathy is. It's just putting yourself in someone else's position. And you know, even at the workplace, listening to a colleague without judging or accepting harsh words from someone undergoing stress can significantly build our emotional and our social intelligence. And so these are very key, important points. I hope we're still all there, guys. Before I move on, I just want to see what is happening in the chat. I see people are talking. Yeah, it's being recorded. Thank you, Dr. Alex. Please share your presentation afterwards. Happy to do so. I'd really appreciate the presentation. Happy to do so. And I see we are live on Facebook as well. So thank you for your comments. We are about halfway through, and I know I've got 18 minutes. So we're going to get straight into self-belief. So let's talk about it. There are two wolves who are always fighting, right? One is darkness and despair. The other is light and hope. The question is, which wolf wins? And the answer is quite simple. It's the one you feed, right? We're talking about self-belief. What is it? Self-belief is trust in one's positive characteristics, self-confidence, and self-worth. Character, confidence, and worth. That is what our self-belief is. So when we talk about self-belief, we have got things that work against us. So we need to learn, if we want to develop good self-belief traits, we need to begin by combating doubt. This often takes the form of brain weasels, you know, those little annoying voices that chitter away in your head, questioning every choice and every decision you make. And what's more, they also tend to tell you that you're not worthy, that you don't deserve success, and that you're incapable of anything worth talking about. The truth is, these brain weasels lie. The doubt that you receive from them is based on incorrect data, old ideas, and even beliefs not of your own making, but that you have learned or created during your life experiences. And so doubt is very sneaky. It creeps in with a seemingly logical argument that simultaneously tugs at your heartstrings, right? It makes you almost want to believe something else. Doubt makes you feel the opposition and it makes you sympathize with it. And that opens you up to taking it in and to believing it. So when you're mindful about it, this can help you to feel empathy rather than sympathy. Then you will understand the doubt, but keep from drawing from it. And when you can keep it out, you can push it aside. So we need to begin by combating doubt about ourselves. Once we've combated doubt, now we must build self-esteem. You guys, I mean, you can talk about business in the professional environment. You guys might be good with, you know, auditing and your financial statements and leading large corporations or even managing large teams. But some of us are struggling with simply having good, positive self-esteem. Part of the problem with how you see yourself is the issue of self-esteem. It's the need for human contact, right? We are, even the most antisocial and introverted among us, social human beings. Humans need other humans for conversation, to bounce ideas off, and just in general to have that kind of relationship. However, it is easy to base your self-esteem on how other people see you, perceive you, believe in you. And many of us are seeking validation, approval, and even acceptance, and even judgment from other people. When you turn outside of yourself, you lose yourself in the process, right? So you base your self-esteem not on how you feel, but on how others make you feel. So the only way to fix the self-esteem problem or issue is to know what your self-esteem is made of. Is it a self-belief, or is it an impression based on what others think about you? And why does this matter? Because you are the only one that there is out there. Nobody else is like you. And so when you begin to place more emphasis on yourself, about yourself, believing in yourself, the better for you. I always say to my clients, guys, there are times in our lives where we need to become a little bit selfish. And that means just filling up our vessels so that we have enough to give out. I really believe that we are, you know, we were created to give. We were created to help others. And I have a book that's coming up called Purposed for Significance. And the idea there is that our life is made up of a purpose that should drive significance. We need to have impact in the world. And how do you do that? By first capacitating yourself so that you have enough to give. And so when you're running low and you're running empty, suddenly your self-esteem becomes an issue. So watch and check yourself. And then, of course, facing disbelief. This is the last one because it is frequently the product of both doubt and self-esteem. And how do we separate the two? How do we separate doubt and self-esteem? You've got to look at disbelief as a forest and doubt as a single tree. These things tie in together. Doubt is an aspect of disbelief, and therefore they work together against you. And I thought I'd find some quick, quirky video that will make you realize how easy it is for us to begin to develop self-doubt because of somebody else's great performance. Listen to this.
Simplify 5x minus 3y.
2x minus 7y.
Correct. Expand x divided by 3.
X squared over 9.
Correct. When is value of a minus b divided by 9 when a is minus 10 and b is 30?
4.
Correct. Solve for x is
7.
Correct. Find 1 over 4 of x
8y.
Correct. What is the value of x if 3x plus 4 is equal to 5x minus 6?
5.
Correct. Find the HCF of 10ax squared and
2ax.
correct. What is the coefficient of x squared and y equals to 7?
Minus 5.
If it takes Tunde 1.5 hours to watch the film, simplify 27x raised to the power 3 times 64x raised to the power 6 all raised to the power 1.3 times 3x all raised to the power minus 1.
Immediately self-doubt creeped in, guys, and took over. So we need to learn just those 3 ways of dealing with self-belief. Combat your doubt, build your self-esteem, and then face this disbelief and conquer it. So let's talk about adaptability. Let's talk about adaptability. And I thought I'd use an image of a chameleon right there because, again, in its environment, it adapts to the colors that exist. But what is adaptability? Adaptability is what allows organisms and people and businesses to solve problems, to overcome challenges, to move back from the edge of attrition to the more stable ground of relevance. And it also refers to how easily you and your business can adjust to change, right? So think about businesses that have adapted. Netflix. Netflix used to sell DVDs and CDs and videos, and they used to deliver them house to house. And quickly they found out that actually we need to move things online. And when they found this online solution and online platform, people were against it. They were saying it will never work. No one will ever rent or stream movies. Today, during this pandemic, Netflix has got a high return on that investment that they made many years ago, because we are now binging on movies on Netflix because we've got nothing else to do in some of the cases. In South Africa, there's a company called NetFlorist. And what NetFlorist are known for is they are like a gift online store. So you can order chocolates for your wife and flowers, and they will deliver them to the place of work or wherever you want. Immediately when lockdown happened, they adapted fairly quickly. Immediately they started selling vegetables and groceries as opposed to chocolates and flowers. And this is important because that's what adaptability is about. But when we talk about adaptability, we cannot stray from the adaptive mindset. You will remember in the beginning of my presentation, I talked about agility. And that's exactly what adaptive mindset is. It is about developing agility, being nimble, being flexible, being quick to actually change, to pivot, as most people are saying. So those of you who started changing your ways of work and moving to remote, and it took weeks or even a month or two, you realize that actually you lost a lot of ground in your productivity. So an adaptive mindset is also the ability to look at your current situation, embrace the flexibility to handle change, and make the best of a situation to achieve success. And here are 7 signs that show that you actually are an adaptive person. Adaptive people have a willingness to experiment. Hey? Do you experiment, or do you just find yourself in that fixed mindset? You're only happy to operate in this little bubble. Adaptive people are unafraid of failure. They recognize that failure is a stepping stone towards achieving the success and the goals that they have planned. They are also resourceful. You know, they have connections and networks that they can reach out to for advice or mentorship and coaching. So be resourceful. Don't just expect to get things from the bank if you need money. How do you do crowdfunding or crowdsourcing? Find ways of using social media to grow your business. Be resourceful. They're also able to see the bigger picture, right? Take a step back and be more reflective and see the bigger picture. But they engage in positive self-talk on your own, in the privacy of your mind. Your internal dialogue is very important. You are curious, constantly asking questions, challenging the status quo. These are all signs of adaptive people, but they also live in the present moment. They plan for the future, they learn from the past, but they live and thrive in the present moment. Finally, my friends, it's about optimism. The dictionary says optimism is hopefulness and confidence about the future or the success of something. You know, and I think that's such an important thing. When we talk about life, we have to develop optimism. Optimism is not about being happy all the time or jumping around with joy. We go through difficult times. We lose family members. People pass away. You might lose your job in the future. But optimism is about having a bigger outlook on life and recognizing that you go through the fire. Yes, you can grieve and go through pain, but your general outlook on life is positive. And there's just 3 things I thought I'd share as I close my presentation around optimism. And the first thing is really about finding gratitude. Yes, the walls may be closing in, or you feel lonely, or if you're an essential worker, right, you're tired and overwhelmed by COVID-19. But if you're healthy, be thankful. If you have food to eat today, be thankful. If you have a warm, safe place to sleep, be thankful. It's not always easy to take pleasure from simple things, but they are what genuinely help us to become optimistic every day in our lives. So during these hard times, put a journal next to your bed and record all the good moments and things that are occurring in your life. But secondly, spread positivity. Making others feel good transfers to you feeling incredible, right? Take a few moments each day to leave a note or a kind word to someone, put a smile on someone else's face. That's a sure way to make you a more positive person, but also by spreading that positivity. And thirdly, curate your input. What you surround yourself with affects your emotional state enormously. Consider these contrasting activities. You can either watch depressing news for hours, or you can listen to upbeat music. You can either stay indoors, or you can take a nature walk outside and listen to the birds. You can either watch entire series of Netflix, Game of Thrones, or you can FaceTime with a close friend or a family member. These are all small choices that we can make every day, but they impact our mood and they make a huge difference in being optimistic as opposed to pessimistic. I want to leave you with these thoughts, my last slide. When you change how you look at things, it changes how you feel. And when you change how you feel, you change how you think, and even vice versa. And this is very much linked to your beliefs. But then when you change how you feel and how you think, you change what you do because you're inspired by this new way of thinking. And then when you change what you do, you ultimately change your results. And so when we go back to the beginning where I started, you have to understand that changing your mindset changes your results. The second arrow is our response, our emotional and our psychological response to the first arrow. And may it be a positive response for each and every one of you. I thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Alex, for that inspiring talk. I think everybody now is feeling inspired. Yeah, there's before I let you off the hook, there's quite a number of things that you need to address. You need to check the
I'm
chat.
looking there, yes, there's a lot.
Yeah, I can see Professor Chawla is having something to do with I personally feel that human values and spirituality makes us understand self better and makes us stronger in emotional maturity. At times, such a control of ourselves might make us contented and thus reducing our vibrant approach towards achieving higher goals. What's your opinion about this?
Professor Chawla, thank you for that question. And I actually agree with you because, you know, what makes our characters unique is that they are fundamentally designed by our beliefs, our values, and our attitudes. Those three components really make up our character or our personality. And so when you talk about human values and spirituality, it is, you know, spirituality is a core value for most people. Whether your spirituality is linked to a religion or a particular type of faith, these core values really make who you are emotionally. However, contrasted with human values and spirituality is the environment we find ourselves in. So you might be solid with your values and solid with your spirituality, but when the environment changes, right? Let's say someone breaks into your house and they kidnap your wife or they kill your child. That environment changes your psyche. And when you have a depth of human value and a depth of spirituality, you are able to respond in a more mature way, but it doesn't stop the hurt. So Professor Chawla, I actually do agree with you. And this is why it's important that we actually develop good models, good values, good ethics. And this is why we find globally things like gender-based violence are paramount. In South Africa, it's like the second pandemic in addition to COVID. And this is because of our values, our home upbringing, our environments, and our spirituality. So yes, I think what you're saying is correct, and I agree with that. Maybe I can even just go and scroll through if you want, I mean, to make it quick and easier.
Please, no worries.
Self-doubt, well explained. Thank you, Finney. Wonderful presentation. Thanks again, Prof. This is cool, thank you. So in short, cultivating qualities such as kindness, joy, not circumstantial happiness, empathy, humility, and gratitude. One can be emotionally intelligent, absolutely. And remember, those 5 components, it's not like a model where firstly you must have self-awareness, then self-regulation, then motivation, no. And sometimes you might be lacking in one, it's an area of development. There's no one who will ever be perfect in emotional intelligence, but it's a journey of life. Thank you so much, Evelyn. I see you clapping hands. Otieno, thank you very much. And as I said, I mean, happy to share these slides with you as I always do at our presentations. I see there's a question here. Being so optimistic is not bad. I am among people who have a fear for the future, and it always helps me to prepare for my future, like saving so that if I lose my job, I should have what it takes to sustain me for the next 6 months. Absolutely, Joel. So when we talk about being optimistic, you're not being pessimistic by planning for the future, right? it's actually it's an intelligent thing to do. You are planning emotionally well. It's a contingency plan that you are making. But in the process of saving for the future, you're not moping around or walking around with your head on the floor or looking sad. You're planning positively because you are optimistic about life in general. So I think it's not a bad thing. You are being optimistic. Sunday, thank you very much for that compliment, my friend. Appreciate it. Fanny, thank you, Ms. Granger, for your time presentation. Appreciate that as well. I think I've kind of covered everyone, and it's 4 o'clock, so I don't want to keep people holding on because I'm sure you have other meetings. So, I mean, before you close, I'd just like to say thank you very much to you in particular, because we always talk, but also thank you to every person who participated, all 65 of you. I appreciate your time, and I really hope to see you soon in the future once the season of lockdown ends. Sarah, thank you so much. Balance, I see you there. Over to you. Amin, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Alex. That is so generous of you. And as always, it's a pleasure for us to have you with us. I know that there's some people who are joined in a bit late. Probably they would want to know who Dr. Alex is. Just quickly, Dr. Alex is considered one of the top leadership and personal mastery speakers in Africa. He works in, his work is embraced by business leaders and blue chip companies, association, institutes, and leaders in government. He has been speaking since 2002. He holds a PhD in philosophy with his thesis on epistemological mindset, a Doctor of Excellence, honoris causa, an executive leadership program from the Gordon Institute of Business Science with a distinction in leadership. He's a certified NLP life coach, a certified virtual instructor, lead trainer, VILT. He's the author of 5 books, co-founder and chief purpose officer of Vice Blue, and CEO of the Possibility of You. That is just part of what makes up Dr. Alex. So Alex, without much ado, thank you so much, and it's always a pleasure. And I would like to invite you before you go for our next webinar that we have. Our next webinar for all our viewers will have Professor Arvinda S. Shavla from, he's the Vice Chancellor of RMIT University in Punjab. He'll be talking about the 2 decades of Rwanda's transformation story. So please stay tuned. And we want to make this exciting. Thank you all, and have a pleasant week. Take care.
Right.